Hey everyone, welcome to a series that I'm doing on my Evo Wagon and installing a Haltech Nexus S3 into this. So I'm just going to run through kind of the reasons why I want to do it and give a bit of an explanation on some of the challenges that I'm going to have with this and kind of document it because this particular process hasn't really been done a lot, or at least not documented very well. So we'll get to it. All right, this is my 2006 Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution 9 MR wagon. In just the 9 wagons in general, there was, I think, a whisker over 2,900 of these things built. Of that 2,900, 306 were these MR variants. The MRs, you can get these in 2 transmission types. You got a 6-speed manual, and then you got a 5-speed automatic. So I have one of the 5-speed automatics, or GT-A. The previous GT-A iteration was the Evo 7 platform, where I believe a lot of the I guess dislike for the 5-speed automatic transmission kind of came from, because they were not particularly great. However, the faults that were in the 7 GT-A, a lot of those I believe were rectified by Mitsubishi, and the box in these things is not the strongest, however considerably better than the 7 GT-A. These typically, or at least the auto, aren't, I guess, the go-to platform for, I guess, guys and girls that are interested in modifying these things and trying to extract a bit of performance. Everyone typically goes for the manuals. However, you can typically find the manuals for anywhere 5 to 10 grand more expensive than what you can the automatic variant. So they are a little bit of a cheaper buy, which is fine. However, it comes with its own set of complications when you kind of want to modify the things, particularly with regards to specialists for the automatic transmission. And the issue that we're going to try and get over in a second is standalone or aftermarket ECU installs. So the factory ECUs in these things, there are a lot of very intelligent people out there that have been modifying this platform and this ECU for an exceptionally long time, and they are quite capable. They will do what they need to do, which is mix air and fuel and give you power. However, for me, I'm trying to create a good, reliable, economical daily driver. So I believe there's some aspects to going to a standalone that'll allow me to do that. So this vehicle, I think, is about average for fuel consumption given some of the other auto figures that I've seen. This thing's doing about 12 litres per 100, which by today's standards, not particularly great, but going into the early noughties on these things, that's pretty much about standard for a performance-based vehicle. Anywhere between that 10 to 14 litres per 100 is probably not outside the realm of unnormal, or abnormal, sorry. So, going to be installing a aftermarket ECU. So, Haltech have just recently released the new Nexus S series. So you've got S2 and S3. Now, the original plan was to drop a 2500 into this thing. However, timing has just aligned and these things have just come out into the market. So, quite excited. Now, I made one small hiccup when I was going through and starting to purchase everything. I had originally tried to save myself a few dollary-doos by going to the S2. I think it's about $600-700 cheaper than the S3 here, purely based on the fact that the S2 supports 4 fuel injectors, 4 ignition coils.
So I thought, well, these things being a 4-cylinder 2-litre turbo, then the Nexus S2 was going to be more than well equipped for handling that duty. However, what I really kind of missed a bit was for the fact that I'm going with a plug-and-play solution for this vehicle. You need the S3 because it utilizes a lot of the unused outputs. As a bit of an example, it uses a lot of the spare injector and ignition outputs to run other vehicle control items. So, not to say that it can't be done with the S2, and I'll get to that in a little bit, but there would be some sacrifices that need to be made. So you're probably wondering, why am I doing a video for this? Haltech have offered the plug and play solutions for the Evo 8 MR and the Evo 9s for some time now. You can even see, I think Marty from Mighty Car Mods, his Evo, they utilize one on that. The biggest issue is it's a plug and play solution for the manual vehicles. So there's only 3 plugs that go into the plug and play adapter here, of which it's the same plug and play adapter between the Elite and Nexus series. So if you've got one of these, then and you wanted to upgrade, you can still use the original plug and play adapter, but you need a new wiring harness and obviously the new Nexus ECU. Yeah, so that's all well and good if you've got a manual vehicle. However, I do not. So this is kind of where some of the fun begins. Now, another reason why I kind of went with the Nexus S3 as well rather than the Elite is for the fact that it has a built-in wideband controller. So all of that is now inbuilt into the Nexus S3, which the Elite 2500 misses out on. So this gets back to my original point of trying to make something a little more reliable, economical, a little more up-to-date if you want to call it, because most factory vehicles only have a narrowband sensor. So there's plenty of videos out there, but a narrowband sensor pretty much only tells you if you're running rich or you're running lean. Whereas a wideband, you've got a wider range of values to deal with. So in theory, you should be able to tune it a lot better, or have it a little bit more granular, if you want to call it that. So that's another bonus. What you don't see on the table here is I have also bought a wideband controller, but that's not going in at this point in time. So coming back to it, this would work perfectly fine for a manual setup. You basically disconnect the three connectors on your stock ECU, rip the stock ECU out, put that one in, plug all your factory harness into the plug and play box. It outputs to all the Haltech connectors, and plug, and you're off to the races. Put the base map in for your Evo 8, 9, whatever it may be, and you're done. However, the automatics are a little more complicated than that. So this is what the plug and play box is expecting to see, or these are the signals that you see on the manual wiring harness. So yeah, you've got your injectors, wastegate, idle speed, sensors, power, cam sensor, crank sensor, all that fun stuff. So this is all the signals that are on the factory wiring harness. So you can see you've got your 3 connectors. This is what the automatic looks like. You have 4 connectors, of which I will show you on the car in a little bit. So I know my math's not that good, but 4 definitely doesn't go into 3. So I was like, oh well, I tried to do a bit of research into this, It turns out a few guys, I think on maybe the Legnums and a couple of other Evo guys with automatics have done basically a dual ECU setup, which is what I'm going to be going for. So you've got a standalone ECU or a factory ECU if you want to go down that path for controlling the engine, and then the ECU that's already in this guy will control the automatic transmission. So you can see what I believe to be most of all the highlighted blue ones are basically everything that's required for the automatic transmission. Now, I did contact Haltech a little while ago about this. There is potential that the R3 and R5 series may have the capacity to control the automatic gearbox in these things. I can't verify that. I don't know if anyone's done it, but that would be, I would say, quite an extensive job. And honestly, just a little bit outside my comfort zone. However, this, I believe I can probably manage. So what we need to do is turn 4 connectors into 3 connectors, along with still being able to run all the gearbox control and then run all the engine control. So this wiring schematic is very, very similar to the 7 GT-A. Basically all the signals are basically in the same positions. It's got the same 4 connectors. Everything looks identical. Even the wiring color coding is pretty similar between the 7 GT-A and the 9 GT-A. So I had a starting position. So I've been able to verify most of the colors on the loom already, and they are fairly accurate, but I'm still going to be ticking and flicking as I go. The next part of it was, all right, well, let's find where all the manual signals are. So the manual wiring loom exists in the automatic wiring loom. So even down to basically the same colors. So you can see here on a 8MR, this is all the expected color coding for the 8 wiring loom, and you can kind of see just how close the color coding is even on the 9 GT-A. So kudos to Mitsubishi for not reinventing the wheel and recoloring absolutely everything, because that would have been a freaking nightmare. So in essence, I'm still going to have a single wiring loom in the vehicle. However, it's going to be basically pigtailed out into 2 separate entities, one for the gearbox, one for the engine stuff, or for the Nexus. So that leads me to the first problem of like, well, I need connectors. So because I need to de-pin a lot of the stuff on the automatic stuff and basically create a new manual wiring loom. I'll say create a new one, but transition everything over. So I had to go out and find an extra set of ECU connectors. So I went through the records, found that the Mitsubishi Magnas that we have here, I think it's the TJ-ish series of Magnas. I'm not too up to speed on those, sorry, but I think it's about there. They have the same connector types. They even have the same 4 plug arrangement as well as they do on the Evos, which is kind of funny. So yeah, basically went down to the wreckers, cut off the end of a loom, de-pinned these, so I now have additional connectors to de-pin stuff on here and basically create this. So that was problem number 1 sorted. Problem number 2 is I'm going to be running 2 ECUs. So this one needs power and the factory ECU still needs power. So I'm like, well, how the shit am I going to do this? Now, this is part of the hurdle that I need to try and get over and still trying to figure out to some degree. because there's going to need to be a lot of splitting of signals. So to the best of my knowledge, from what I could find, need power, ground, and throttle position sensor. So again, back to the wreckers. Got a couple of black wires, a couple of red wires. This one's green because that's the color of the throttle position sensor, because apparently that's required to not send the active center diff into an absolute hissy fit. So that's going to be a later stage problem. The first part is transitioning everything over, getting the ECU plugged in, and then in theory, at that point in time, the car should at least start and run. It may not drive, but it should at least start and run. So that's kind of the part that I'm at now. So I'm kind of hoping that I've done enough planning. I've got enough information here. I've got enough printouts, and basically going to be going through pin by pin, ticking everything off, because these are all the signals that the Nexus S3 wants to see. So basically going to go pin by pin, transition everything across. At that point I should now have 2 new loom ends, plug the ECU in, and it should start. So fingers crossed, that's going to be the next part that I'm going to crack on with, and show you a little bit in the car, just to kind of get a visualization of what I'm referring to. Alright, so we're in the car. I've already taken out the glove box, and there's a little panel that sits kind of just in here, and it covers up this bit of the wiring loom. So that just slides forward and comes out. That's all pretty basic. Let's try and get some lighting in here. So this is the factory wiring loom. So it comes in from the firewall, a bit of a loom here, of which there is quite a good amount of extra wiring there, which is going to be utterly fantastic for when we have to get one of these out. Oh, Christ. For when I, in essence, need to make 2 of those. So that way I can kind of de-pin these, and then basically there'll kind of be 2 connectors, one to plug back into the original ECU, and then one for the plug and play unit. So normally what would happen from this point, so you can see the 4 connectors here, and then I'll try and get underneath here. You can see the 4 connectors on the ECU there. So what would happen from this point, if you had the 3 connectors, is you'd, or a manual vehicle rather, even, you'd get your plug and play adapter, and then basically just go plug, 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 and then put all this shit in, and then plug that into your Haltech ECU, and you're off to the races. But that doesn't work too good, so we got to make it work good. Sorry, this looks a lot better than what I thought it was going to be. Sorry, got quite a lot of slack on these cables, which is utterly fantastic. Sorry, that is going to help an absolute shitload. Alright, I gave a bit of an explanation of the car, but kind of didn't really give too much of an explanation of kind of what's going on under here. So, for all intents and purposes, this is a completely dead nut stock Evo IX Auto Wagon. I have recently had the O2 sensor replaced. I've had the cam sensor replaced. I have had the fuel injectors flushed and cleaned, like outside of the fuel rail, and it's had a major service done, along with a rebuilt power steering pump, a new high pressure line, new rad, new top hose, new thermostat, yeah, that's primarily most of the work that I've had done so far. Just some reliability stuff, and just a few identified issues after the major inspection. Now, it was common thought that this was just the complete standard Evo Evo 8 motor. However, that's not entirely accurate. So what this combination actually is, you've got an Evo 9 block with the Evo 8 head, and then you've got the Evo 7 GT-A turbo. So that's what this combination is. And then obviously you've got the 5-speed automatic all-wheel drive gearbox, which I believe is also found in the all-wheel drive Magnus here in Australia. It's the W5A51. So that's most of what's going on under here. I didn't really give too much of an explanation. Other than that, yeah, car runs and drives pretty good. I think it's maybe got an idle air control issue, but it is, at this point, I think maybe exceptionally minor. However, curious to see what happens after the new ECU goes in and see if it just sorts itself out. I have got the install complete, so there were a few things I did want to go over. The first thing was just taking my time. This did take almost about 3 hours going through and just pin by pin checking everything off. So I wanted to confirm on my 9 GT-A wiring loom, check everything off that it was all cross-referenced correctly, check it off on here to make sure it was okay, checked it off as a input for the plug and play adapter, just made sure one pin got moved, tick tick tick, and away we went. Including, this is what I've put together. This is a, hey, you've got the 9 GT-A plug and you need to make the split loom situation, so you can quickly reference just what plug needs to go where. So yeah, there's about 3 hours worth of work there, just nice and slow, taking my time. There was an issue to do that I was concerned with, to do with the TPS, the ground and the power, being able to split all of that. So I did a bit of, I guess, pragmatic fault finding, just with removing signals and pins in stages to see what was going to fail. Now, the common theory is what will happen, so I'll grab my key here, we'll go around. Oh god. So she currently doesn't start. It's got it booked in for a basic initial tune in a couple of weeks. Now the going theory was that if you didn't have the 12 volts and the grounds going to the stock ECU along with the TPS sensor, you'd get the failed ACD signals up here. However, I can still cycle through them, which only indicates that the button and technically the lights are working, or the LEDs. But normally if you didn't have the TPS sensor, these would all fail or become all lit, indicating a failed ACD or four-wheel drive ECU. Mine hasn't done it. Not too sure what's going on. I'm not too sure if the ACD is technically activating or not either. But for what it's worth, the car doesn't turn over. It will crank though. So I think the timing's just a bit off, but other than that, it sounds moderately healthy, which is also good. Yeah, that's the TPS situation. So I need the car to run and idle to be able to then further test to make sure the gearbox works. However, not that it really is a proof of concept of anything. However, go in your hole. There we are. Stick my foot on the brake, I can cycle through basically all the gears, and there's no particular faults there. So who knows? It could run and drive after the initial tune's done, but gotta wait and see. All right. Now, here's a book that I picked up from Japan. It's a electrical wiring diagram book for specifically the MR, so it includes a lot of the stuff for the wiring that was only specific on the MRs and some that was obviously available on the base platform. But now, this little guy here is the throttle position sensor cable. Now, not too sure if I'm actually going to be able to find that. Might potentially be that guy there, I'm going to say, since there's a white, a green and a black there. That's probably the TPS. So get you guys a bit of angle there. So that's probably the throttle position sensor there. So that's this boy here. Now you've got a signal leaving the TPS, which is the sensor ground into the automatic ECU. You have this, which is basically your TPS signal wire. So that leaves the TPS and enters the four-wheel drive, the automatic transmission ECU, or basically the car ECU. However, it also does split off as it leaves the TPS, and that comes down into this box here, which is the four-wheel drive ECU, or the ACD. So you can see on the dash I was cycling through all the LEDs, and that there would be the switch that would be cycling all those LEDs. So yeah, but I believe that's why the ACD, or the four-wheel drive ECU, cracks the shits, because you need the TPS to go to the four-wheel drive ECU, then you need the TPS to go to the ACD computer. Yeah, that's the working theory anyway. Mine's not doing as expected, but again, not a lot of info documented on this. On here, I didn't end up having to transition these couple of pins, purely for the fact that my immobilizer on this particular connector, the pin hole that it's currently in, it uses one of the big square connectors rather than the little square terminating ends. And trying to move it to where it thinks it needs to be on the manual, which is that pin there, it just doesn't fit. So I just made the decision not to transition basically any of my green connector. So yeah, hasn't caused any concerns, nor for the fact that the Nexus controls the two additional signals that I had to transfer anyway, so no big deal. Yeah, car is booked in for 12 days time, the 15th of October. So I'll probably do a video at that point to just get, I believe the issue is just need to get all the base timing set or checked, put that into the ECU, and then just go through the just standard affair of just getting the car run into idle. So it won't be a full-blown tune. Oh, what I did find in the NSP it didn't actually, as I just quickly mentioned before, it didn't actually allocate all the required wiring. Now, understandably, it didn't allocate AVI 9 to the map. It thought it was just going to use the internal map sensor, so basically stick a vac line in. But I just opted to use the voltage input because something I don't think came on the 8s is this one actually has a built-in map sensor to the plenum. So same shit, different smell. Not too sure which one's more accurate, but that'll be suffice for the meantime. Saves having to run a bit of tubing for the vac line. So that had to change that. The airflow meter was not allocated either. It had air temp, but the airflow meter was not allocated against that input. And also had a couple on here. So, the purge control valve, I think it comes up as EVAP or something like that. So that one, I found that one was okay. I just accidentally disabled it. And then this wastegate solenoid too, which I'm currently seeking some information from Haltech about. Because, where are we here? A6 boost control output 2. So apparently it wants it. So I'm asking Haltech where and what it needs to be assigned to. So waiting out on that. Otherwise, fingers crossed, should have a running car in a couple of weeks, but I'll keep you guys updated.